Details of Atiku, Obi and APM's case as Supreme Court unveils 7 judges to hear the appeals challenging Tinubu's election. The Supreme Court has set Monday, October 23, to hear the appeals filed by 3 presidential candidates challenging the outcome of the February 25 election. The court's registrar, Zainab Garba, who issued the hearing notice, announced the appellants as Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Labour Party's Peter Obi, and the Allied People's Movement APM. In the same vein, the Supreme Court has constituted a 7-member panel of justices to hear the appeal in the petitions seeking to invalidate Tinubu's victory as announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The list of members of the panel to sit on the appeals include Justices Adamu Jauro, Uwani Musa Abba Aji, Lawal Garba, Helen M. Ogunwumiju, I.N. Solawa, Tijani Abubakar, and Emmanuel Ajim. The hearing, which commences on Monday, will see the Supreme Court formally unveil the 7-member team that will adjudicate and determine the cases. In his appeal, Atiku's lead lawyer, Chris Uche, anchored the suit on 35 grounds. Uche, a senior advocate of Nigeria SAN, said the 5-member panel of the Presidential Election Court erred in their verdict. In the court filings in the document dated September 18 at the Supreme Court, cited by SYMFONI, Atiku's legal team contended that the Presidential Election Petitions Court judgment occasioned grave error and miscarriage of justice in its legal reasoning by upholding Bola Tinubu's election as president. The lawyers contended that Justice Samani-led Presidential Election Court failed to adequately evaluate Atiku Abubakar and PDP's evidence before reaching its conclusions. The lawyer faulted the court for using disparaging words against Atiku, which shows bias. The lawyer told the Supreme Court that the appeal court's conclusion did not represent the true picture of the grounds of his petition. He further contended, among other issues, that the Presidential Election Court erred in law when it failed to nullify the presidential election held on February 25, 2023 on the grounds of non-compliance with the Electoral Act 2022, when the evidence before the tribunal shows that INEC conducted the election contrary to the principle of the Electoral Act 2022 based on the doctrine of legitimate expectation. The PDP presidential candidate Atiku also filed fresh evidence at the Supreme Court concerning Tinubu's academic records, which the former vice president obtained from Chicago State University in the United States. Although the Presidential Election Court dismissed the issue of Mr. Tinubu's academic records, Atiku intends to breathe fresh life into it since he obtained the documents from the U.S. In Peter Obi's appeal at the Supreme Court, his lawyer Levi Uzoku filed 51 grounds in challenging the Presidential Election Court's judgment. Uzoku, a senior advocate of Nigeria, argued that the Presidential Election Petition Court reached the wrong conclusions. In one of the grounds, Uzoku told the Supreme Court that the 5-member panel of the Presidential Election Petition Court, led by Haruna Samani, erred in law and thereby reached a wrong conclusion when it dismissed Peter Obi's suit. He faulted the Presidential Election Court's evaluation of Obi's evidence and said the court erroneously ruled that Mr. Obi's case failed to establish the polling stations where electoral malpractices occurred during the February presidential election. The lawyer also said the lower court's conclusions caused a grave miscarriage of justice when it held that Peter Obi did not identify the specific number of votes he polled at polling units where he accused INEC and Tinubu of suppressing votes. The appellant's lawyer urged the Supreme Court to determine if the Presidential Election Court did not err in law when it based its reasons on the first schedule of the Electoral Act 2022 to expunge Peter Obi's witnesses' statements on oath from the court's records. Another political party, the Allied People's Movement APM, lodged the third suit, alleging the improper nomination of Bola Tinubu's running mate, Kashim Shettima. In its appeal at the Supreme Court, APM's lawyer, Chukwuma Machukwume, a senior advocate of Nigeria, based his client's suit on 10 grounds. APM prayed that the Apex Court nullify the Presidential Election Court's verdict for its numerous errors in law. The party argued that Sections 131 and 142, subsection 1 of the Constitution are inextricably linked and neither can be confined as a pre-election matter as these qualifications are conditions precedent to and for being elected into the office of the president. APM suit was not based solely on nomination, but primarily on the fact that President Tinubu contested the presidential election without a lawful running mate. The party added that the withdrawal of Ibrahim Kabiru Masari, a placeholder after the expiration of the 14 days permissible for changing and withdrawing candidates under Section 33 of the Electoral Act 2022, rendered Mr. Tinubu's election and return invalid.